When you go out for a day out in an amusement park, it's fair to say that you would expect to return home again afterwards in one piece. But we found a whole load of reasons that you might change your mind about that. Be sure to stay tuned for the most notorious theme park of all time. Number 15. Alton Towers, United Kingdom. Alton Towers in the UK is a massively popular theme park destination, and although it is a place that is rarely involved in too many negative news stories, one of its rides has gone down in recent history as being infamous, and that's not the sort of fame that any roller coaster is really looking for. The Smiler is a 14-loop roller coaster and was the first in the world to boast quite so many loops, and it remains one of the park's most exciting rides. When it opened in 2013, it had cost £18 million to build and was beset with issues from the beginning. They appear to have smoothed out some of the wrinkles at this point, if you're feeling lucky, that is, and they even go so far as to say that it will challenge your body and mind. It certainly challenged the bodies and minds of some unfortunate individuals who happened to be on board when the ride malfunctioned, and it seems as if it did this rather a lot, especially in the early years. In 2013, on its first preview ride, a bunch of journalists were stuck in a really awkward position for over a half an hour before they could be rescued. Then, just a couple of months later, that same ride left 48 people trapped when a bit of the track fell off. It was closed for a while the following month because of a so-called technical issue, and barely a few weeks later, some of the wheels fell off and smacked into people who were riding in the front carriage. It was closed and then opened and then closed again, and by 2014 they believed that the issues were fixed. But then in April of that year, everything went sideways once again. A whole ride's worth of visitors got stuck in a vertical section of the track and were left dangling at the top. This was bad enough, but in the summer of 2015, the Smiler hit the headlines again for all of the wrong reasons. A fully loaded train crashed into a test train that was still on the tracks, and many of the riders suffered serious injury. One rider lost a leg in the incident, and guess what? An extra train had been added beyond the ride's usual capacity so that they could cram more people in. The owners received a fine for the incident, and eventually compensation would be paid to the victims. Number 14. Dreamworld Australia. Located on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia, Dreamland is the largest theme park in the country. It's a popular destination with more than 40 rides and other attractions, and the fun was somewhat overshadowed by a major incident at the park back in 2016. The Thunder River Rapids ride was a water ride in the Gold Rush area of the theme park. Riders would be seated in a circular raft that carried up to 6 people at a time, and it was 1,350 feet long with a maximum speed of 28 miles per hour. It took approximately 4 minutes from start to finish. The ride itself was essentially a whitewater rapids experience, nothing too crazy sounding, but sadly, it did not go as swimmingly as you would have expected. In October of 2016, the Thunder River Rapids ride malfunctioned on a catastrophic scale. One of the ride's 2 main water pumps had failed and caused the water level to drop suddenly. This would lead to a fully loaded raft becoming stranded on the support rails just short of the conveyor belt at the end of the ride. Then, about a minute later, another raft full of people bashed into the first stricken vessel, and that would cause the 2 rafts to be forced upwards and the second raft to tip up completely into a vertical position. The passengers then fell out or became trapped in the conveyor system, and this incident would lead to deaths of 4 passengers. It would be the worst incident to occur at an Australian theme park, and the ride was immediately and forever closed. Number 13. Rye Playland. Although theme parks are generally fun places, there are extra dangers that can quickly turn deadly when you combine fast rides and the people who enjoy themselves. Rye Playland in New York has experienced this on no fewer than 6 occasions since first opening its gates to visitors all the way back in 1938. You may argue that that's not too large of a number given the great age of the park, but a couple of these major incidents occurred kind of recently, and they were rather spectacular disasters, to be honest. The various rides and coasters at the Rye Playland have seen all manner of things, but amongst the worst were two deadly events that took place during 2004 and 2005. A 7-year-old lost their life when they were thrown from the ride, and then just a year later, another 7-year-old died on a water ride. Then a couple of years later, a supervisor was riding a coaster without a seatbelt, and they too perished as well. But you know, I'm sure that people have also had a whole lot of fun at this place in the times in between. Number 12. Expo Land, Japan. Although Expo Land theme park was a popular destination for more than 30 years, it would be eventually closed down permanently after a terrible accident. In the usual way of such things, when people stopped turning up after the bad publicity, it was no longer making money, and then it was closed down. In May of 2007, the Expo Land stand-up roller coaster, known as Fujian Rajan 2, was the scene of an accident that left one person dead and 19 others injured when it derailed and threw the passengers off the track. The ride would normally have been traveling at speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour along a stretch of track that was almost a kilometer long, so you can simply imagine the speed at which things went wrong. In an investigation that followed the derailment, police would discover the cause of the crash to have been a faulty axle that had not been repaired or replaced for 15 years. After this incident, the park did reopen for a short time, but put off by the tragic event, visitors simply did not come in great numbers anymore, and that spelled the end of the park, and it closed for good in 2009. Number 11. California's Great America. In classic theme park style, California's Great America has had a lot of ups and downs. The theme park originally opened in 1976. Its location in California would mean that this particular park had been used in various movies, most notably the 1994 feature film and classic Beverly Hills Cop 3, starring Eddie Murphy. This movie was set in the theme park, so many of the rides and attractions appeared on screen at some point or another. Obviously, this was all the way back in 1994, so most of these rides have since either been replaced or changed. For a park that's been running for so long, there have inevitably been a few incidents over the years. You probably don't want to hear about all the hideous things that have happened, but some you might. I know you like that sort of thing. But these are just a few of the many recorded incidents at this center of fun times. In the 1980s and 90s, there were several fatalities as the result of riders being injured by roller coasters or simply falling out of the restraints or even jumping out of them. Then in the 2000s, there were a series of incidents that involved people becoming walloped on the head by bits of rides or even other riders. And then, don't forget that this is America, because in the late 2010s, there was actually a shooting and then another incident in which people thought that there was a shooting, although it did turn out to be just firecrackers. People fleeing still found time to rob the concession stands as they ran away from the scene, and that's all very standard stuff, you know. Number 10. Parc Asterix, France. I'm beginning to get the sense of just how dangerous a theme park can be, but there is more than one way to meet your maker when you're on a day out at the fun fair. Have you considered just how attractive lightning might find all of those lovely tall metal structures at theme parks? You know, roller coasters are just the ticket for a bolt of lightning to strike. This is one of the ways in which Parc Asterix found itself in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons. This theme park is located in France, and it is based on the comic books featuring Asterix the Gaul, themed around his adventures during the time of the Roman Republic. It's been in operation since 1989 and has all the usual sorts of amusements that you may expect from roller coasters, to log flumes, and even fancy 4D cinema experiences. And like all the long operating parks, it's also had its share of disasters. One being in July of 2004, when a boy was struck by lightning while standing beneath Zeus's Thunder roller coaster. In this instance, the park had continued to run rides despite there being several weather warnings, and then tragedy hit in July of 2006 when a young child fell into the water on River Rapids ride and was sucked under by the water pumps, which caused him to drown. Although the ride continues to operate, it's been upgraded for safety reasons and then renamed for PR reasons. Number 9. Cedar Point, Ohio. Cedar Point Amusement Park loves to call itself the roller coaster capital of the world. I guess that its location in Sandusky, Ohio means that it really needs to boast about something in order to convince people to visit there. But anyways, this theme park has been in operation since 1870, and that makes it the second longest running in the entire whole of the United States. It has a total of 15 roller coasters, hence the boasting from before, and considering the length of the park's operation, it's actually managed to keep a surprisingly high percentage of its visitors alive. There have, however, been a bunch of calamities over the years. There were many injuries during the 1980s, probably on the account of the lower level of safety checks and such that were more common back then. Then, during the 1990s up to the 2010s, there were a number of injuries as the result of malfunctions as well as a few self-inflicted issues by people attempting to retrieve dropped cell phones. That was not an issue until more recent times, it would seem. The most recent issue occurred in August of 2021 when a woman who was waiting in line for the Top Thrill dragster coaster would be hit in the head by a piece of metal debris that had fallen from the ride. She suffered a brain injury, and the ride, which was the second tallest in the world, was then closed for the rest of the season. In the end, it was decided not to ever reopen it at all. Number 8. Fort Fun, Germany. Located in Germany, Fort Fun is a Wild West-themed amusement park with about 40 rides and other attractions. There is a focus on more outdoor sports and adventures, like whitewater rafting, climbing walls, and horseback riding. But is it actually really dangerous? Well, yes, apparently it can be very dangerous indeed. Back in 2017, the park was the site of a terrible incident which took place when a 12-year-old boy was riding the bobsled-style roller coaster known as the Trapper Slider. He was rushed to the hospital when his leg was severed after becoming caught between the tracks and the sled on his descent down the mountain. Although an investigation was opened, it still remains unclear exactly how the accident occurred. Number 7. Walt Disney World, Florida. As the purveyors of all things magical and the most famous of all theme parks in the world, you would imagine that Disney would be getting things done right. But even the masters of theme park adventures can have their bad days. The Walt Disney World Resort in Florida is absolutely massive, spanning an area of almost 25,000 acres and made up of 4 theme parks: the Magic Kingdom, Epcot Center, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and Disney's Animal Kingdom. There are also 2 water parks and multiple hotels all across the site. Approximately 57,000 people visit the Magic Kingdom every single day. The other parks receive between 31 and 38,000 visitors daily. With that many people in one place, things are bound to be less than magical from time to time. The dangers of the theme park business begin before the rides even start. Many of Disney's reported incidents occur on the transportation that ferries people into the park. From the buses to the monorail, there have been injuries and loss of life. And then when you get inside the parks, there are the usual dangers of cramming people in together in fast-moving machines with lots of mechanical parts and such. There are also some issues with specific rides. Animal Kingdom's Avatar Flight of Passage seems to have a strange ability to make some riders pass out when they ride on it. There are also reports of the usual malfunctions and strandings, but in general, people who shuffle off this mortal coil while in the care of Disney tend to have an existing medical condition that shows up when they ride an exciting roller coaster or even stand around under the sun for too long. Number 6. MMs Motherwell, Scotland's theme park. Located in Motherwell in Scotland, this theme park is the usual family fun destination with a whole load of rides for all ages and a traditional fun fair vibe. But this fun day out has had a few ups and downs in its time. Back in 2016, a catastrophic incident took place in the amusement park when some carriages from the Tsunami roller coaster would derail and then land on top of a children's ride that was positioned below. 10 people were injured, and they were all aged between 11 and 19 years old. Many of the victims had life-threatening injuries, but amazingly, they pulled through and survived, not without life-changing effects. Number 5. Kings Island Amusement Park. As the biggest theme and water park in the Midwest, Kings Island, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, is a popular choice for people looking for a little distraction from the everyday. If they have deep pockets, of course. This amusement park has over 40 different rides and activities for visitors to enjoy, but like everywhere else on our list today, they are not without their troubles. And the weirdest troubles to have occurred at Kings Island took place all the way back in June of 1991. In the space of just 1 hour, 3 people lost their lives while in the park. To begin with, nobody could figure out what in the world was taking place. 2 young men fell into a pond and were electrocuted, and shortly after, a woman fell 60 feet off the flight commander and then succumbed to her injuries. The day went down in infamy as Black Sunday, one that the park officials would rather people never remember. Number 4. Mount Olympus. The Mount Olympus Water and Theme Park likes to put Wisconsin Dells on the map as what they say is the water park capital of the world. I guess it has to be good at something, right? And for the most part, it does seem to be alright at water parks, although an average of 3 stars across the board is not quite the ringing endorsement that one would anticipate for a place with such a big boast. But perhaps it has something to do with a history of dangerous goings-on. Between the years of 2006 and 2016, the park saw a total of 2 deaths and 75 injuries. A major malfunction of the mechanisms in the twister coaster would throw a 63-year-old man from the car into various metal bars before dumping him headfirst onto the concrete below. He suffered life-changing injuries but miraculously survived. The accident was caused by an issue with the upkeep of the ride, but weirdly, the law in Wisconsin requires that amusement parks comply with state safety laws, except these are not actually enforced. Number 3. Schlitterbahn Water Park, Kansas City. Well, this water park was notorious in its day and has since been closed down, and that's probably for the best. The ride that really got all of the bad press was the Verrückt. This is the German word for crazy or insane, so that probably gives you a sense of where this may be heading. It was 169 feet tall and the highest water slide in the entire world. It would throw riders down at speeds of up to 70 miles per hour, and the brave users of this water slide would sit in a kind of car before being propelled down the steep slope which ran straight and fast to the end. Regrettably, the safety features on the ride were really not up to standard, and although the slide was a popular feature in the water park, it was also the scene of an absolutely horrific death by decapitation of one young boy in 2016. The entire thing was truly terrible and just doesn't bear to think about. Number 2. Concaria Adventure Park, India. Concaria Adventure Park in India is unfortunately better known for a major accident than it is for its fun rides and activities, but that's the way it goes when you stuff things up this badly. Back in 2019, a ride at the park would suffer a catastrophic malfunction in which it completely collapsed when a part of the main shaft snapped. The ride had been carrying more than 30 people when it fell to the ground, 2 of which were killed, and 29 others suffered injuries as a result of the incident. The whole thing would be captured on video and is pretty shocking to view. It just goes to show how rapidly things can change. The pendulum-style ride had reached a horizontal position when suddenly the entire arm broke off and the entire passenger section plunged towards the earth. Investigations would reveal that the load-bearing cable inside of the structure had snapped and pulled the pipe from the main shaft. This threw the entire whole of the rider's section into the support beams and then down onto the hard ground below. The same investigation also discovered that a matter of a few weeks before the incident, a safety inspection had been annotated with the words "Nut Bolt Replace." Number 1. Action Park, New Jersey. And finally, we have reached the most notorious of all theme parks in today's list, Action Park. Located in the Vernon Township of New Jersey, Action Park Theme and Water Park was first opened to the public back in 1978. At that time, it was popular for all of the new and unique attractions that had brought the crowds of people from all over the greater New York metropolitan, but unfortunately, however, some of the stuff that made Action Park so unique also turned out to be really badly designed, and it was immediately apparent that this theme park was the location of rather a lot of accidents and injuries. It also didn't help matters that the staff were totally undertrained, and to be honest, they were also usually underage as well. It also transpired that many of these same staff and the majority of the guests were also rather fond of adult beverages, and that certainly did nothing to help their safety record. Over time, the entire place would be seen as a bit of a joke, and there were loads of funny nicknames for the park like Class Action Park or Accident Park, Friction Park, and it would all have been hilarious except that at least 6 people actually died from incidents that took place there. Well, in the end, that was a bit of a bummer. What did you think about all this danger and chaos? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section down below, and I'll see you next time.